Hey guys, excuse me. This is a brief video demonstration on how to take your 4x6 postcard for your package design, and we're integrating this with variable data. And this is the kind of step two where we're getting our postcard the data kind of prepped and being able to put it in and showing this process of how to plug it in. So anyways, at this point, first off, I guess I should say this is not by any means meant to be an all-encompassing tutorial on how to do the entire process. This is just kind of the second step, and so you should have your postcard already designed at this point or well underway, and you should already be thinking about what your variables are for your product and your customers. So hopefully you're at that point already, and as we get into this process, you'll see kind of how these things are going to come together. So to begin with, I guess a couple things I'm going to be using. I'll be using InDesign, Photoshop, and I'll be using a spreadsheet through airtable.com. So I'm going to go to InDesign and look at this document. This is the demo document that I've created for class. This is the real estate agent postcard, and kind of per our discussion, what I've got in here is we are looking at on the front here, we've got one spot for a photo to swap out. This photo right here is a picture of the home, and so this is from a real estate agent going out to their prospective clients, and these clients are people that are looking to buy a home. So the idea in mind is that the real estate agent is finding these new houses and going, hey, I know this person that would really be interested in this, so I'm going to send this person a postcard showing them this new house and the details about it and everything, and see if they'll give me a call back. So so on the front of this postcard is a place to put a picture of this new home. It'll cover the whole front of it. They can put the person's name in the top bar up here, and then the price of the home will come in right here. So there's a photo and two pieces of information that can change out on the front of the postcard. And then on the back of the postcard, I have a number of different variables here. For one, there's two interior photos that I've got set up that can be changed out, and then a map, which is where the house is located, and then a photo of the real estate agent. Assuming that this is a real estate company that might have multiple agents, and so they would actually be able to update their own personal information in here. So two interior photos, map photo, real estate agent photo. And then as far as just information here, there's descriptor text for what the house is. There's the agent's name, phone number, email address, the price of the house, the address of the house, and then the mailing address for the person that's going to go out to. So with all this said, if I've got this kind of design and set up, you want to be I'll reinforce this a few times as we go through this, but you really want to be deliberate in how you design your postcard here. You want to be clean. You want to be simple. These are all rules that you should be following anyways, but it really kind of comes to light in something like a project like this, because a mistake or an inconsistency early on can get compounded really fast, because your one postcard might be getting duplicated dozens or hundreds or thousands of times, and that mistake happening over and over again, it just will get worse and worse. And then plus, once you've done the data merge, it basically will be creating a whole bunch more postcards, and if you do that and then you decide that you're going to make a change or something, you have the choice of starting all over again, or if you've got style set in a way that makes sense, then you can change the style. Anyways, not to hammer that too far home, but just be considerate and aware that you want to be very simple and clean and deliberate in how you're designing your piece. Okay, so with this in mind, I've got my postcard is designed. I know what pieces are going to be variable data, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to actually go into my database and kind of consider what this looks like. I'm going to try to pull this up side by side here. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so with this in mind, I'm using airtable.com. This is the database source that I was talking about in class. I really do recommend it. I think it's a great way to go. If you're comfortable doing something else, go for it. But this is a great way to get started. Just go to airtable.com and you can set up your own free account there. So in the database, this is pretty simple and straightforward with how it works. Going down in the columns is where my variable data, the type of that variable data is going to be coming into play. So going down, I have names, I have addresses, things like that. Going across in the rows, this is where each individual record comes in. So if I've got a dozen clients I'm sending out to, I'll have a dozen different lines across here. If I've got thousands, I'll have thousands of lines. So right now, in the columns going down, what we're going to look at is just what kind of data I've got in here right now. Okay, so compare it to the postcard here as we go through. So title, first name, middle name, last name, that's all pertaining to the name of the person that we're going to be sending this information out to. Title, Mr., Mrs., things like that. So we're going to look at this, where it's going out to kind of make the comparison here. So we've got Mr. Donald G. Robertson. And so each one of these is a separate line of information, because in this case we have Mr. Donald G. Robertson, all one line here, but we want to be able to pull one piece of information out here, the Donald. So in order to do that, we would want to have the flexibility of having the one name separated out. If it was always all together like this, we wouldn't be able to pull the first name out like that. So Mr. Donald G. Robertson, the street address, 1234 East Longview Boulevard, and then San Andreas, California, 11212. So we've got the city, the state, and the zip code. And then, and the way I did this too, in trying to keep things in a way that makes sense, it says title, name, middle name, last name, but in front of it I had a C underscore, and the C underscore stands for basically client or customer. So anything that has a C in front of it just means this is the customer where it's going to go out to. The next block that we're looking at here is where I have name, phone number, email, name, phone number, and email, and it also has this A underscore in front of it, and that just stands for agent. So this is relating to the real estate agent, which is right here. So we have the agent name, phone number, and email address, that information. And then the H underscore in front of it just stands for the home, so like which home we're talking about. So we have, relating to the home, we have the address, the description for the home, the value of the home, and then next group after this all has the @ symbol in front of it. And this is a symbol where in these other cases, the H underscore, the C underscore, A underscore, those are just titles that I came up with to help me keep track of what's what. They're not necessary. In the next group here, where it has the @ symbol directly in front of it, this is necessary. This is the way InDesign understands that these columns are talking about photos, photos that it needs to place into the document. So @photo agent is the picture of the agent here. @photo map, that's for the map here. Photo exterior photo, the horizontal exterior photo, that's the big exterior photo on the front. The photo horizontal interior is this one back here. It's on the back, the horizontal photo. Oops. The photo, photo home exterior, photo home exterior, photo home interior, horizontal, photo home interior vertical. So horizontal and vertical are the two, and they're interior photos is what those mean. So again, we have, I did this myself. I kind of came up with this idea of what I wanted to do was, we have customer, we have we have agent, we have home, and then we have the @ symbol for photos. So that's kind of the four types of columns we got separated out. Excuse me. So once I got this kind of in mind, and it makes sense for everything I want to do over here, it's following, basically I did my design and InDesign, and then I went, okay, so what's the different variables I have here? What would I title it? How would I put that into a database, etc. When you're doing a project like this down the road, you might be designing a database, you might not be designing a database. You might be getting handed a database completely without any control, and you're just going to have to use it. Or you might not be, or you might have somewhere in between where there's an existing database, but you get to take that database and you get to kind of finesse it and clean it up a bit. And that's probably one of the more realistic outcomes, is you're going to get a database and you have to kind of clean it up. The chances that you're just going to have to deal with the data no matter what, and you're not going to have any control over it, that's probably not going to be very likely. You'll almost always have the opportunity to bring some information in. And if it's important to the client that this thing work, then it's important that you work with the client, tell them how they should do it, because it's going to be how they use their database and something like this is going to be critical. So, so I've got the database all set up. It's pretty clean. In Airtable, I want you to notice here that you can set things up here in here, like in this case where I've got title, I have it called a single select, which means you can select one item in here. So if I click on this and go down, I can choose Mr., Mrs., whatever. And I do that because I don't want people typing in, Mr. without the period or Mr. with the period in different cases. I just wanted to use the one that I already have plugged in. Where it's a name, that's going to be up to the user to put that in, or the middle name, last name. State is another one where there's only so many states, and I want to choose from the list so that there's not different interpretations of that. So there's just different cases where you're going to use things differently in here. And then like zip code, I can tell that I want it to be a number. These are not super critical important for this assignment, but just knowing that going forward that you do have some control over things going forward. Airtable is a great resource going forward, so it's not just for this assignment. Get used to using it, and hopefully you'll like it and it'll work out well for you. Okay, so I've got my design created. I've got my database kind of created. I populated it with just some fake names and addresses and descriptions and dollar amounts and all that stuff, so that when I put this together, that it'll be able to work for this assignment. Okay, so I've got design, database, and last thing is photos. So on my desktop, I have a folder of images. I just went to Adobe stock images and purchased some high-res images. And so I've got, I'll go back into my photo lines here. Okay, so agent photos. I grabbed 3 different agent photos. You can see there's this vertical, and there's this horizontal, and other horizontal, and they're all very different formats. And that's not atypical. I mean, in some cases you might have more control over it, but chances are just plan for worst case scenario, I guess. So I've got some 3 photos of agents for the exterior of the house. I've got this kind of Southwest style home. I've got this real ultra modern style, and this more traditional kind of style of a home. And those will all go for the front of my postcard. The interior horizontal photo, I've got this kind of traditional, modern, and then actually I should say that this is kind of mid-century modern. So just 3 different styles basically. It doesn't really matter that much. And then so that's for the horizontal, and then the interior vertical, kind of same thing. I've just got 3 different interior photos, kitchens and whatnot. And then maps, I did maps for this just because I thought it would make sense. So I just grabbed 3 different random maps that I thought would work. And the vector is just for logos and stuff. And that's not variable data, so I'm not going to worry about that. But what I have here is I've got 3 different sets of photos that I basically want to make sure that they are going to fit into my formatting for InDesign. So looking at InDesign, this is where kind of dialing in your photos as part of this process is going to be super helpful. And I'll just show you how I do this. I won't do every photo, but I'll show you how I do it with a couple of them. So for example, starting with the agent name, or the agent photo in here, I want to look at this and see like, okay, how big is my agent photo? How big does it need to be? And I've made them 0.625 inches wide by 0.5625 inches tall. So 625 wide, 5625 tall. So what I want to do is I'll show you. I want to show you how to do a little bit of a script processing here. Not that it's going to save you a whole ton of time on 3 photos, but knowing that this is capable for down the road when you're doing 300 or 3,000 photos, this is total game changer. This is where the project becomes profitable or not profitable, or worth doing or not worth doing, and that is a big difference. Or total nightmare or not a total nightmare. Okay, so 0.625 wide, 0.5625 tall. Okay, so back to my desktop. We're going to go to the agent photos. So my agent images are all right here, and I can open these all up and format them all separately. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a script in Photoshop. In Photoshop, the script I'm going to use, I'm going to go into File, Script, and we go Load Files into Stack. Load Files into Stack means that I'm going to open multiple files up, and I'm going to stack them as layers in a single document in Photoshop. So I go Load Files into Stack. I'm going to say Browse and just look for where the files are going to be. These ones are on my desktop. They are in my images, agent headshots, and then I'm going to pick these 3 photos. Then I can say Open, and it's got them chosen right here. And there's some other options down here. If I had different types of images, I could try to get them aligned, whatever. You don't need to worry about that. We just want to load them into here, and then we say OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to create it's going to open them all up, and it's going to create a new Photoshop document and load these files in as layers. And it's going to name these layers. It's going to name them according to what the file names are, which becomes kind of a handy item going forward here. So we pull some palettes in so we can see what we're doing. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I'll bring my layers in at least. First thing I do whenever I'm in Photoshop working non-destructively is I turn my layers into smart objects. So I click on a layer, right click on the name, and then I convert to smart object. Do that for each one of these. Okay, next step, I'm going to resize this image size. I know I want it to be 300 dpi, and I know I want it to be, what was it? I know it's 0.625, 625. So basically all I'm doing is I'm resizing this so that my smallest dimension here is equal to my largest dimension in the other state. And working with smart objects means that I can make mistakes with this process and I can fix it down the road. So that's I'm just throwing a number in here to begin with, one of the 2 numbers, and knowing that I know that one of my is going to be 0.625, so height 0.565. Okay, so I'll say okay. It's going to resize it for me. That's going to get me close to the image size that I want. So I'm going to go back and double check. So I can't remember. 625 wide, 5625 high. So now I'm going to go to canvas size. Inches, 625 wide, 625 tall. Is that correct? Short-term memory, 5625 high. Yep. It might, in this case, you can see that it rounded this to the nearest integer, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be that close. We're down to tiny increments here. So anyways, 625, 5625, say okay. Again, I'm at image size, I'm at 300 DPI, which is a good resolution. And now all I'm doing is, for these different layers, I am just going to resize them so they look good. So I can take, I just want to scale this out. It's a little bit odd. Usually for a portrait, you would have a taller portrait formatted image, but in this case I don't. And I'm just sizing them so they look good. This one. Okay. Now the other thing I would want to do, and I didn't do it yet on this one, but I can at this point, if I'm going to go back and look at my spreadsheet, is the names on these are Adobe stock, and that's not what I would want to have for the final ones. I would want to have the correct file names for these, and in this case I'd want to have the names of the agents in here. So let me look. I've got names for these agents. So let's see, agent name. Okay. So I got like Debbie Reiner, Cynthia Thompson, Scott Peterson. So I would just copy and go, okay, and we'll say you're Debbie. Debbie. G. Space here. And in this case, I would probably go last name first. Scott, Cynthia. Okay. Got these all renamed, last name first, and then I just have them all as .jpeg at the end because I want to bring them in as JPEGs, and this gives me the ability to automatically export these assets. So this is it. I've basically done what I needed to do. I'm going to save this document to my desktop images. Agent headshots, and actually I'm going to create a new folder for processed images. Okay, create, and then this is going to be agents. Okay. Once I got that in, and now I just come in and I say generate the image assets, and that will create it'll output these layers as new images. Saved again, and I can close this. I'm not going to do this for all the different images right now. I think I've got them processed already ahead of time. The Julia Child, I've done a lot of pre-cooking here so we can speed things up. Okay, so I'm showing you how to create those images. And so if we look at the image folder, processed images, agent assets, here they are. Now they've all been sized exactly the same size, format, correct names. That's exactly what I want to do with all my images. I want to have them sized exactly the size they're going to go into Photoshop, proper resolution, everything's correct. That way, or I'm sorry, into InDesign. That way, everything comes in. I don't have to worry about it. It's just correct. Okay, so I would do that with maps, all the interior, exterior photos, etc. As I mentioned, I have done that already here. Okay, so here's the images that I processed. Maps, home, interior, home exterior, agent photos, home interior, horizontal. So this is all the different images that I need to have. So I'm going to take all these, actually I'm going to copy those and in our image folder here. Create a new, call this placed images, so processed images and placed images. And then I'll paste those all in here. So the naming conventions that I use in this, again, this is like, you want to be super anal when you're coming in and doing this whole process. So I've named everything, agent, name, home, exterior. And the reason I did this is so that when all the images are going to come into the same folder, and that way I can look at the names. They will all flow correctly if they're just, separated by name. All the maps are together, all the agent photos are together. They're easy to sift through and find because I'm not putting these in separate folders. So naming conventions are important. So these are all the completed images. I have all my data ready. My document is designed. So I have the basic resources are created. So at this point, I want to create a CSV out of Airtable. The CSV is the comma separated value. It is basically just a text document that replaces all the tabs with commas. And that is a file that InDesign reads and can interpret for the data merge. So to do that in Airtable, I come in into my document here on the place where it says grid view with the little people on this. If I click on this when I got my document open, click on this little tab, pull down to download CSV, it's going to prepare and it's going to download it. Once I've got this prepared and downloaded, this is what it looks like when it pops back open and just as a raw format. But what I want to do, for whatever reason, InDesign doesn't necessarily like to look at that CSV until I've run it through a different program called TextEdit. So going back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my CSV that I downloaded. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say open this with TextEdit. When it opens up in TextEdit, I can see there's like just a bunch of these. This is just extra rows of information that I don't need. So I'm going to delete that and delete that. And I can see the first row in here is the top row where it just says, contact, home, title. That's the title, kind of that title block up there. Once I've deleted those extra rows though, I can just save this document and close it. And that's really all I need to do. And then I'm going to take this CSV and I'm going to move it into my image folder. Moving it into the image folder means that I don't have to worry about the file path. And it's going to go into the placed image folder. Okay, so there it is. And I'm just going to simplify the name of this. It doesn't need to be complicated. I'm just going to call it test demo CSV. Backing up here, I kind of skipped a step, but it's simple. I want to show you that when you have these fields with the @ sign in front of them, where the photos are coming in, then the names that are in here are exactly the file names that are here. So what I would do, and it's including the extension and everything. So when you know what the file names are all completed, then I just copy the file name here, just like click on this and select the whole file name and copy it. Oops. Copy that, and then I come in and just paste it into whichever cell it needed to be in here. So it should be exactly what the file name is down here. That's important. Okay, so backing up. So I've got, we've exported the CSV, we cleaned it up a little bit, and we are basically ready to do the data merge at this point. All the hard work's been done. Okay, so to do the data merge, okay, so data merge in InDesign. What we do for this, we do need to have this data merge panel open. We've got it right here. I'll show you where it's at though. If you go into your window and then you pull down to utilities, and data merge is hiding inside of here. Okay, so you open this up, and in the little hamburger menu here, we're going to say select data source, and we'll find that, make sure we're on desktop, we're going to go to images, processed images, placed images, test demo CSV, and say open. And when we do that, it's going to take that top row of information, this top row up here, H description, H value, photo agent, the names of the photo, row and everything. All that is going to be brought in here. And in here is where we then go, okay, this information is going to go to a certain place. So to start with, I'm going to start with just the text part of this. So this first bit of information here, Donald, that is our client or customer's first name. So I look over here and go client first name and check that, and it just replaces that with this bit of code that basically just tells it what bit of data it's going to bring in. All the formatting that I've done here, it's going to apply that formatting to this code and everything, because that's the way it's going to format the actual data. Next bit of information is the value of the home, which is right here. So that's going to be home value. So you can see why this makes sense the way I've got this set up. It just makes everything easy, the way it's ordered and everything. Okay, so I got that two bits of information, and then on the back side here, this is the home description. I'm gonna go a little faster here. So in some cases the text is going to be way shorter. The little code text is going to be way shorter. In some cases it may be way longer. The important thing is to make sure you have it set up so that it's kind of got the worst case scenario for your actual text, but the little title descriptor in here, the title bar, if that comes in and it's shorter or longer, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. So description, okay, and now next bit of text is going to be our agent name. Oops. Agent name. Agent phone. Agent email. Home value. And home address. Next, this is where it gets a little complicated. You can see where we go. Now this is going to be the title. Oops. First name. Actually, back up here and leave a space in between these. Sometimes it's a little bit weird if in like some cases some people will just choose the salutation, sometimes they won't. Some people will choose middle name or middle initial, some people won't. And that can cause some like extra spaces to show up in your in your copy. And there are ways to deal with that. I won't get into details about that, but just so you know, that can happen. And it's something you have to kind of come back to after the fact and deal with. So don't, if it happens, we can deal with it later. I won't explain how to deal with it right now. Okay, so I'm just going to select just the copy and leave the space in between. That's going to be title, first name, middle name, last name, street address, city, state, and zip code. Okay, that's all the data that I need to bring in. Next is the photos. Provided I've gone through and formatted the photos and everything in there is correct, we're good to go. So now I'm going to choose this photo right here, and that photo is photo exterior. This is photo interior horizontal, photo interior vertical. This is the photo map, and this is the photo agent. And then I just want to look this over real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything. Name, phone, email, address. That changes. Description. Okay. This looks good, I think. Once I've gotten to this point, this is a good place to go back and save this as a different title, because I don't want to save this over my design document. This is more of like a version, or a template kind of a document. So I'm going to do a save as on this, and in here I would just I'll say demo. Obviously you want to think about your naming conventions per the assignment, but I'm not going to deal with that right now. Double test. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, once we've got that in there, we're ready to run this. So now all I need to do is just go back to the hamburger menu, and then we just say, hamburger, and then we say, create merge document. We open this up, and we can tell it to do all the records or a single record, or we can choose, odd records, or there's options, I guess, basically in here. Generate the overset text report. You definitely want to do this because it'll tell you if there's any errors. Same thing if there are images that it's looking for in the spreadsheet in the database that you don't actually have in a folder. It'll tell you, hey, there's some missing images. The multiple record layout, you don't need to worry about this. This is for something different than the kind of design we've got going. And then in the options, this is in case you didn't format your images ahead of time. There are situations where you might have to deal with something like this, but I will almost always try to format my images ahead of time because I want to make sure that they look good. But even though I've done that, I'm still going to say I want to center them in the frame. I want to link these images, and I want to fill the frame proportionally. And then blank lines for empty fields, yes, and that's good. So if you have these settings here for yours, yours should be identical to mine. You should be good, and then you just say OK, and it will create your document for you. No overset text was generated when merging the records, which is good. We don't have any errors. Click OK. And I can see, I can go back and proof my document now. I'll zoom out a little bit. We see, okay, so we've got first one from Mr. Donald G. Robertson, this $1 million home. And then for Tim, he's got this $825,000 home. And then for Camilla, this $475,000 home. I'll show you on this Tim one, you can see There's no middle name that's selected for Tim, and no salutation. And you see there's an extra space that came in here, and extra space in here too. Like I said, there's ways that we can fix that. We won't worry about that right now, but if you see that pop up, that's what it's from. So from here, you want to save your InDesign document out. You want to export this as a, if you were doing this for a client, you would send them probably a smallest file size so that they could proof it, and then when you got done with it, you would generate a press quality PDF to send to the printer and send it their way. And if that's all good, then you are finished. You can generate, from dozens to thousands of postcards, and if you've done your work correctly, you'll never even have to look at them. And then the next time your client asks you to do it, a week later or a month later or whatever, you can say, yes, sir, I can do that, or yes, ma'am, we'll take care of that, and it'll happen really fast. You won't have to worry about proofing it, and you can bill lots of money for your time because you've come up with a really great system that's going to work fantastic. So this is the short and dirty version of how to do variable data on your postcard. Hopefully this answers any questions, but if not, shoot me an email or bring it up when we come into class next time. Okay? Thanks, guys. Hope you're having a great break, and I'll see you soon.